Mac Power Users, episode 467, Fitness Apps and Tech. Hello, everyone. This is David Sparks, along with my pal, Stephen Hackett. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Good. This episode's going to be fun.
I think so.
I think so. We've got a bunch of fitness discussion and hacks and apps. You know, Apple has made fitness a thing with their products now, and I find myself increasingly using them. I know you do too, Stephen. So we thought today we'd just kind of take a survey of the ways you can use your Apple products to get more fit and some of the best workflows and apps to pull that off.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this. It's one of my favorite sort of like modern Apple initiatives, like all the health and fitness stuff. Clearly, they care about it deeply. They've made big investments. I think Tim Cook, like personally, really cares about it. You listen to interviews with him. He's like, "Oh, I'm at the gym every morning at 5 a.m." Like that's impressive, and I think that has filtered down into their products in a way that's, as we're going to get into, is like really interesting and I think helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you can tell that when Apple references the people who use their Apple Watch when their car crashes, or Apple Watch helps them avoid a heart attack. Apple, of course, they use that for marketing, but I think they, at a very deep level, are proud of that. And
I think so too.
And anyway, so there's a lot you can do with this stuff, and we've broken it down with a nice long outline here. But before we get to that, just a couple points. First is I wanted to thank everyone that said hello to me at PodCon. So I was up in Seattle last weekend, and man, we had some great listeners there. It was really exciting for me, Stephen, because once in a while I get to be a superstar for just a day or two. That's not my normal life. My normal life is picking up the kids from school and getting my work done. But once in a while you get to go be kind of a superstar, and that was really fun. But so many great listeners came up and talked to me and talked about the impact the show's had on them, and so much love for Stephen. I wanted to share that with you, Stephen, but it was just great. And I had a good time. And of course, I got to see some of the Relay folks there. Rose and I did a really fun meetup. And even we had James Dempsey singing music, and it was kind of nuts. But the good time had by all. And thanks for everybody for taking the time to say hello. And I distribute mini Mac Power User stickers. So there's so many stickers out there.
Send us pictures if you put them on your devices. I like to see those things out in the world. That'd be fun to do.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of my other podcasts, Focused. Free Agents with the new year turned into more of a productivity show. But we wanted to make it something where we don't have all the answers, but our ideas about getting focused and kind of getting your life together. And it's been doing really well, and I've been really proud of what we've done, and we've got 2 episodes out now. So if you're curious at all about that stuff, it's Mike Schmitz and I, and it's the subtitle is "Life is About More Than Just Cranking Widgets," and I think that really summarizes what we're going for there.
I really enjoyed the first episode. I'm excited to hear this one that just came out on the 22nd. I think y'all are doing a great job. Talking about superstar, like your co-host, Mike is so awesome. I've gotten to meet him a couple of times and I get to know him a little bit, and I'm really excited about the future of that show. Just as a listener, someone who enjoyed Free Agents, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Yeah, Mike was so impressive to me, when Jason, decided to move on from Free Agents. He was just the obvious choice, and he was somebody that I just wanted to bring in to the family because he's just so great. And, so sincere, and he's got some great ideas. So anyway, go check that show out if you haven't. I'd really appreciate it.
Now, so you were traveling, you were on the road, and I saw a blog post you had up before you left about the iPhone smart battery case. So this new case for the XS, XR, and XS Max, and you've got your hands on one. So how is it?
Yeah, before we get into the content of the show, let me just do a quick review.
Okay.
So Apple made a new battery case. The last battery case I had, I looked it up, was on an iPhone 3GS.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Well, the thing is, a battery case is great until you don't have that phone anymore, and then it's a battery without a phone in it. And so I've always been kind of hesitant to get them, but both my wife and I have the XS Max, so we could both use a battery case. And even though I usually get a new one pretty quickly. I always hand the old one down, and the batteries are always dead with my kids. They're not good at charging. I don't even know if they keep this battery case on it, they still wouldn't just like run it down with the battery case on. But either way, I've got a bunch of travel planned this year, and my wife with her work does these press events where she's at Disneyland for a couple days. Sometimes they put her up in a hotel because, just everything's happening at once. And so she always has battery issues there. And I thought, let's just get one and have it. It's not going to be the everyday case for any of us, but it's going to be the case we kind of trade between ourselves when one of us is traveling or she has a big event at work or, just when you need extra battery life. And so I decided to get one.
I like the idea of having one that sort of floats between everybody. My wife and I don't think have ever had the same iPhone at the same time. So that benefit's lost on me.
Yeah. Apple had that good deal. They were giving you a pretty good trade-in value, and we had a couple extra phones. So her phone was 3 years old. So she wanted a new one, and we went in and got her the big enchilada. The whole, what they call it? Whole enchilada, I guess. We got it. So she's got the 10s Max like me, and she really likes the big screen. So it's great. It definitely makes the phone heavier, and it's expensive for a battery. I mean, I've been carrying these Anker charges for years that cost like $20, and they fit in your pocket with a cable. And so if money is a primary concern, this is not the battery you're looking for. The texture is interesting. It's got kind of a rubberized texture, which makes holding it without slipping easier, but sliding it in and out of your jeans pocket harder. It's a little harder to get in and out of your pocket. I think it probably is going to attract lint, and it's just going to be a little harder to maintain. I was super tempted to get the white one, and at PodCon, Alex Cox, also a Relay friend of ours, had the white one, and it looks amazing, except it's just, I know it would get dirty with me in like a day. So
yeah,
I got the black one. Rose Orchard also got one. She really likes it because, same thing. Rose is flying from Austria to the U.S. quite often. She just wanted something that could give her more power when she needed it. The integration with iOS is aces, man. I've never had because I used to have these external battery cases, and they're always a pain in the neck. You had to know to flip it on, and it was just kind of a hard to manage thing, and you didn't know how much power you had. This is the first Apple one I've had, and of course they've integrated it into the operating system. The little battery icon shows you the charge status of the case along with the phone, so you can always see it, and it's got a Qi charger in it. So I can just set the battery case with a phone or without a phone inside of it on the Qi charger, and it trickle charges it up for me. Which is just, so it's great. You don't have to take your phone out of the case to charge the case. You can just lay it in the charger overnight. You're good. But it also has a lightning port on the bottom, so you can plug it in and do it that way if you want. It's great.
And the lightning charging will even do fast charging. So if you have one of those big USB-C adapters and do a USB-C to lightning cable, it'll fast charge the phone and the case actually at the same time if you have a big enough charger. So, the wireless charging is a little bit slower. You're talking about a lot of battery. That's going to take a while. But, say that you're traveling and you have one of those little multi-port USB deals, you could plug it in for a little while and then be good to go for hours, which is basically my use case for something like this.
Yeah. And like when I was in Seattle, I didn't have access to the hotel room right away. And I was traveling. I was doing lots of social media stuff. I was taking pictures, which of course hits the battery. And then I was in a convention center with thousands of other geeks like me who were, of course, doing the same thing. So then it was having issues with the cellular radios, which also hits the battery. So, and I just never had a problem the whole weekend, having that thing connected. It was great. But like I said, I'm not going to keep it on my phone every day. And maybe it was extravagant to get it, but I think we're going to feel like we get our value out of it between the travel I'm doing and the stuff my wife does. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with the purchase.
Good. Yeah. They run $129 for any of the three models. And if you have an iPhone 10, the 10s case will work on it, but the software seems like it kind of warns you that it's not compatible, but it is. That was from Renee Ritchie over the weekend. So Renee knows what he's talking about. But if you are like us, where you travel with these phones sometimes, yeah, there are cheaper options. But for me, something like this, just being so well integrated, is worth the cost, and not having to like remember a cable. Like, oh, I've done this before, right? I can get on the plane, I have an iPhone, and I have an external battery, but my lightning cable is nowhere to be found. It's like, well, that's not super helpful. But this is all in one, so it's nice. I'm glad you're liking yours. I picked one up as well. I used it this weekend on a family camping trip, and my thoughts on it completely mirror yours. It is expensive, but it is a really good job. And like, I was in a situation kind of like you. I had basically one bar of like 4G networking basically all weekend, and that will just destroy a battery because, the radios are trying to like spin up and like, hey, try to grab that connection. And the battery case was really impressive even on the Mac. So I think it gets thumbs up for me too.
Yeah, some people are saying, well, the modern iPhones, they never have a problem with them losing their charge in a day. Then you probably don't need this case. But like as an example, we had some out-of-town family visit in December. And, usually when I go to Disneyland, it's like a couple hours. I'm not, because we have passes. So I'll just go in and we'll watch a show, have a sandwich, and then go home. But we had the family, so they wanted like the whole experience, get there at opening, stay there all day, watch fireworks. And so that day I was taking pictures of a lot of family related babies and
awesome.
And we were running around the park all day, and we were, and the same thing, you've got thousands of people in a compressed area. So the cellular radios work harder. And that day my phone ran out of charge. I mean, I at one point I had, the anchor in one pocket and a cord going to the other pocket with my phone in it, and, and that works and that's fine. But it would be nice in the future not to have to do that.
Yeah. I think that's enough about the battery case. I feel like we've covered it.
So Apple and fitness.
Yeah, this is we talked about a second ago, a really interesting part of the company to me. And I feel like so much of it is not necessarily dependent on the Apple Watch, but I think the Apple Watch is sort of the place to start for most people.
Yeah. And I think, like you said earlier, I mean, they really are taking this serious. I think it's one of the real core drives of the company at this point, and it's showing up everywhere.
It is. So let's talk a little bit about the Apple Watch itself. So the Series 4 has been out now for several months, and it's got the new design, which I think is a lot nicer looking, the bigger screens. But something that's really neat about it is that not only is Apple pushing the design, but they continue to push the health and fitness stuff. And this is sort of in two big categories. So you have the fall detection, and in the show notes I've put, because I am me, an Apple support document about fall detection. And
did you hear that, Stephen?
I did. There's that bell.
Yeah, I have an Apple support article bell now.
That's good. We're going to wear that thing out, I think, over the coming years.
I call it the K-base bell.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
All right.
So the Series 4 Apple Watch can detect a fall a couple of different ways. So Apple walked through this in their keynote. If you fall forward or you fall backward, it can detect that. And, I hadn't really thought about it until recently, but like falls are like actually a really serious deal if you have aging family members or somebody like that in your life. They can be really dangerous, and the watch can keep an eye out for those. But there are a couple of things to take into consideration. One is that it's actually not on by default if you're under, I believe, the age of 65. So if you are younger than that in like your medical ID stuff on the phone, which we're going to talk about, fall detection is off. So you can go in there and turn it on. So I actually turned it on my watch. I'm 33, but it's like, I could benefit from this, right? I'm on the roof of my house clearing off branches, and I go mountain biking, and like things happen. And so I've got it on. And now I know it's always kind of watching me to make sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah, and the way it works is when you fall, it detects a fall. And I haven't had any false positives yet since I got the watch. Have you?
I have not. It seems like it's really like tuned in. I was a little worried that, especially mountain biking, that if I, came off a jump and hit the ground real hard on the bike, that would think that I had fallen. But I've never had it flag one as a fall that wasn't one.
but I did have a friend who fell, and it triggered it, and he was able to disarm it in essence. So when you fall, it says, "Hey, are you okay?" And if you don't turn it off, then it's going to call emergency services for you.
Right. So this is tied in with the emergency SOS feature, which is on the watch. You can go and press the side button, and if you hold it down long enough, this will come up. So if you're immobile for 15 seconds, it will tap you on the wrist and sound an alert. It's going to try to get your attention, right? Maybe you're a little foggy, and it's like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
And that alert will get louder. So if you have a roommate or, you live with somebody, they could maybe hear it. But then after a minute, it will actually call emergency services, and your emergency contacts that you can set up will get a notification, including your location. So if you're out and about, they know where you are. This seems really well thought out to me, and I think Apple's put a lot of care and attention into this feature.
Yeah, I feel like this makes me want to put an Apple Watch on certain people in my life.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've already started those discussions.
Yeah.
It also does a rudimentary EKG, which is kind of cool. Have you have the Series 4, right?
I do. So when this feature rolled out, I did one, and everything was cool, but I'm glad it's there. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I got a clean bill of health from my Apple Watch.
That's good.
But you never know. I mean, with all the other things wrong with me, I was thinking, well, that's good. I got that going for me.
I'll take a win.
But it also, the Apple Watch now for a couple of years has been able to monitor your heart rate for you, and even let you know when it detects something odd going on. I was at a thing for my daughter, and she was doing something really cool, and I was like, heart swelling, proud dad, and telling my watch it, hey, your heart's going a little fast. Are you okay? And I wasn't like having a workout or anything. I was just, anyway, I was being schmaltzy. But but it went off, and it's happened a couple times. I think it's cool to know that, hey, I got a little buddy on my wrist keeping an eye on things for me.
It will also detect low heart rate. So if you have issues on that end of things as well, the Apple Watch will let you know. And all of this stuff is just, like you said, it's kind of like a buddy who's got your back, just monitoring things in the background and storing that information in the health app, and then alerting you that, hey, something may be wrong. It's not that these things are necessarily definitive, right? The ECG on the watch is, like you said, it's rather basic, but it can be enough to get you to go see a healthcare provider. It could be enough for you to go start asking questions. And for me, that's all I want out of this, right? Like if something came up, I'd still go see a doctor, but I may not have ever known without these features. And I think that's pretty cool.
I'm just glad to see Apple doing things like that. And when you look at the phone and the watch and what they've done over the last few years, it gets back to this idea that Apple really wants to have your back when it comes to your health, and they want you to be able to use this technology to help you take care of yourself a little better. A big piece of this is the Apple Health app on your phone.
Yeah, so this rolled out with iOS 8 now years and years ago, but the Health app, the way I think about it is it's sort of the central repository for all this sorts of information. And third-party applications, we're going to talk about a few, they can read and write information into and out of Health. So if I track a workout with something other than an Apple app, it can store that information in Health, and it can read my weight and height from Health and do all these things. But it's sort of the hub for all these apps and services to go in and sort of gather information. It's all local on your phone. It is backed up to iCloud if you elect for that to be backed up. So if you move from one phone to another, you don't lose your history. But it's all stored on the phone. It's not something that Apple can see. It's not something that third parties can see. It is just information that is as private as it can be, which is really important when you're talking about things like health.
Yeah, and it gets confusing for some people because there's really two health-related apps. There's the Health app, which is, like Steven said, it's the repository of your health data. And then there's the Activity app, which is where you track your activity. And that's more of a workout-related app, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I believe, does the Activity app require an Apple Watch to show up, or can you?
I believe it does.
Yeah, okay. So, but either way, but the Health app, I think it's on every iPhone. And it shows you, because the phone also has sensors in it too. If you carry the phone around in your pocket, it's actually going to collect quite a bit of information about, I believe, step count and some of the data that you can get. Not everything you can get with the watch, but a lot. And so it's already collecting data for you there. And it's also got a place where you can put your medical details. There is the medical ID feature. We've talked about this occasionally on the show in the past, but every time it comes up, I think I want to stop and just put a pin in that because it's so important.
Absolutely. So this is a place in the health app you can go in and enter contact information for yourself and your emergency contacts. You can list allergies, blood type, height, weight. And the idea is that if you are in a situation where you can't respond to, say a paramedic or a doctor or somebody like that, this is accessible on your phone without unlocking it. Basically, it's 2 taps away from the PIN code screen, and they can get all that information, including like all that contact info, without having your phone be unlocked if you're unable to do that. I think this is spectacular. I have it set up. This is one thing I tell all my family members. Be sure to do this, because if you're in a situation where if you're alone or someone doesn't know your history, you can put that in there. Some of us have like really serious allergies to common medication that would be bad if I was given that in an ambulance. So I want that in there. And my understanding is, having spoken to paramedics, this sort of thing is actually included in training. They know that this exists on iPhones. So if someone has an iPhone and they're in an accident or something, they look for this. This isn't something that you could do and no one's ever going to look for. My understanding is a lot of paramedics are fully aware of this system, which I think is just great. It's well worth a couple of minutes to set this up and then to tell your loved ones and friends and family about it as well.
Yeah, there's a real good article you did over on 512 Pixels that we're going to link in the show notes showing people how to do this. Mm-hmm. And, we don't give that many homework projects out on Mac Power users, but I would say this is one,
I think so.
If you've done your own, I would hope that a lot of our listeners have already done their own because they're geeks like us. But if you haven't, do it. But even if you've done your own, make a list of 2 or 3 people in your life that are on some sort of medication, or, everybody could benefit from this, obviously. But call 2 or 3 of them, or the next time you see them, help them get this set up. I think you could really help somebody out one day that way.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so you, in addition to putting your medical ID in there, something you talked about earlier that I think is just a good move Apple made with this is the ability to allow third-party access. Because it's Apple, you never really know if they're going to do that. I mean, they still haven't done that with time tracking stuff. But with medical, they have. And I think this was a really great move because there's just a rich abundance of third-party apps out there. We're going to talk about several of them as we get through the show. And all of them at your approval. None of the stuff is automatic. You have to approve it. But they can not only draw from this your health ID and medical data in this application, they can also contribute to it. So if you have a sleep tracking app, it can send sleep data to the app, and it's just great because now you can choose the apps that you like the best and still have this great repository of information instead of having to go to 5 different apps to get different bits of it.
Right. I was actually just looking through mine as you were speaking, and I've got, probably 7 or 8 apps in here that can both read and write information, and it's really fine-grained. So something like a calorie tracking app may want all sorts of information, but you may want to say, hey, actually, I don't want you to see certain things. So there are a lot of toggles on these screens, but I think it's worth going through them, looking at them, and granting permission based on what you want. And they have both read and write. So if I have an application, I want to say, I don't want you to know anything about my health, but I want to use you as a way to input information into Health app. Then you can set those permissions accordingly, which is really nice.
And before they did that, because these health apps were starting up even before Apple had this health app, it was a mess because you literally had to go to the Withings app to see your weight, and you had to go to the Fitbit app to see your steps. And it was terrible because you didn't have a single place to collect that information.
It's really great. Something, too, that I don't have much firsthand experience with because it's still really limited, but there are several hospitals and like doctors' offices and medical care providers that can now access the Health app. So they can put information in and out of it. You can use it to check prescriptions and your history and everything. I would love to hear from listeners if you have experienced this, because again, it's a very limited rollout right now, and what that's like. Reading about it online, it seems like people really like having that back and forth. But if you've had experience with that, maybe let us know in the forums. I'd love to see how that experience has been for you.
Yeah, I mean, that might be fodder for a feedback episode at one point, because it's kind of a new thing, and I'm super curious to see. I think it's like in its infant steps now, but maybe in the future, this is a thing where you go to the doctor and, tap a button on your phone and do a download.
It'd be really great. I mean, all that information is there, but yeah, exposing it in a way that is useful to a medical care professional would be really cool.
Yeah, I actually have shared data from this app with my doctor just when I go in for a checkup, And I just said, well, he says, you sit down and he says, well, how are you doing? And I think I'm doing okay. I said, well, let me show you my activity and let me show you, what my heart rate readings and things are. And he sat there for a few minutes and looked through it all. And I thought it was kind of nice, because that's way more quantitative than me just saying, I think I'm okay,
Right, yeah. I'm not the professional. Even the ECG feature we mentioned will actually create a PDF in the health app that you could email to your doctor or nurse practitioner. Like it's really well thought out.
I always heard as a kid of it called EKG, but I guess now the accepted term is ECG.
Yeah, I don't know the difference or when it changed, to be honest with you. But
yeah.
ECG is what Apple calls it.
Okay. Well, then it must be right.
I'm going to go with them. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by our friends at 1Password. Look, we all live in a complicated age. We have countless online accounts. We have social media, all the way up to online banking. And each one of those needs to have a secure, unique password to keep us safe. And that's where 1Password comes in. You can use it to create strong, unique passwords. And the best part is you don't have to remember all of them, right? So if you have, just say you just had 30 accounts. All of us have way more than that. But even remembering 30 strong, unique, different passwords is basically impossible. But 1Password remembers them all. They're stored there securely, and they're on all your devices. So if you're at home, in the office, or somewhere in between, you can log into all your accounts easily wherever you are. With 1Password for families, you can share login information with the important people in your life. And with 1Password for teams, you can create 1Password vaults for different coworkers, managing access to critical information with fine-grained control. So if someone doesn't need that login, but they need this one, you can just set that up for them. 1Password, of course, works across a wide range of browsers and devices. On the desktop, the simple shortcut of Command / opens 1Password with the correct login selected and ready to be filled. That is a shortcut that is wired into my brain forever. AgileBit stays on top of the newest features. For instance, 1Password on iOS uses Face ID to let you quickly unlock your vault, and it integrates with the new autofill password feature, so you can log in right from the standard iOS keyboard. And this is great because staying secure shouldn't slow you down. If something to keep you secure is a burden on your workflow, you're just going to bypass it. And 1Password makes everything as easy as possible by keeping up with what Apple's doing. One of my favorite features, I actually used it this morning, was the ability to create and store banking information. So often I have the need to send somebody like a routing or account number for a payment, and that comes with like a bank name and a bank address. And instead of having to look that up every single time, I can just keep it in 1Password. It's way safer than keeping it in Apple Notes or Google Docs. I know it's safe and sound, encrypted neatly in 1Password for when I need it. Head over to 1password.com/MPU to learn more and to sign up for a free 30-day trial. And when you do sign up, you'll get 20% off. That's 1password.com/MPU. My thanks to 1Password for supporting this show and Relay FM.
I think we should start talking about the ultimate health and fitness accessory for your iPhone, and that's the Apple Watch. And it's expensive. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk about, what do you get for your money in terms of health and fitness with an Apple Watch, and how does it compare to something like a Fitbit?
I think it's a great place to start. And the base layer of, step tracking, heart rate monitoring, simple notifications, that's really kind of the same on both of them, right? The Apple Watch does those things in a way that I think is nicer, but the Fitbit suite of products, which we have a link in the show notes because there are a lot of them and it's hard to keep them straight and hard to talk about all the brands. Most of them can do all of that stuff. I think the big difference for me, at least, as silly as this may sound, is actually iMessage. The Apple Watch for me is an iMessage machine. It's an iMessage client almost more than anything else day to day. And, I have a lot of threads with a lot of people. It's my primary mode of communication other than Slack during the workday. Again, some of the Fitbit models can receive notifications from your phone, but you don't get to interact with them necessarily in the way like you can on the watch because it's all baked in, made by the same company. And maybe that sounds, a little bit silly. I don't know if that is true for everybody, but it's definitely true for me, kind of where I am in life.
I mean, we all have our killer apps on the Apple Watch, and you just don't get those on a Fitbit. I mean, for me, it's OmniFocus because I'm scatterbrained and I get ideas all the time on things I want to act on. So I've got the OmniFocus widget, and I can or complication. So I can just tap on that and add to the inbox with my voice very quickly. And to me, that makes the difference in price worth it. But on a health and fitness level, I feel like I'm not aware of a Fitbit that does an ECG. Maybe there is, but it just seems to me like Apple is always the one pushing the charge on health and fitness. And another big difference for me with the Apple Watch is, frankly, the social element of it. I feel like, for me, it actually helps motivate me to work out when I get to send unicorns to you, or when I had a friend, because I was traveling, I didn't work out for a few days. I had a friend actually text me, "Hey, I noticed you haven't worked out this week. That's not like you. Everything okay?" And it's like, that's nice to have that kind of community feedback, and it helps get me more fit, I think. And I know you can do that on Fitbit as well, but look, in my world, most of my friends are wearing Apple Watches, so that would make sense to join in.
It's actually interesting. My mom wears a Fitbit, and that to her on the Fitbit side is one thing that keeps her there. I would like to have her have an Apple Watch, mainly for the fall detection, like we spoke about earlier, but she's got her friends and people she works with, they all track steps within the Fitbit ecosystem. And so for her to step out of that would be leaving that sort of community. And I think that's a really strong point to consider, that those communities, they do mean a lot to a lot of people. Like you, I share my workouts with a lot of people, and it is a sort of a sense of, oh yeah, people can see what I'm doing or not doing. And that actually is like a motivator for me to okay, I need to make sure I actually make it to the gym this morning and not just sleep in and then go to work late. I need to get up and go do it. And I think that's a powerful thing.
For my wife, the Apple Watch exists to find her phone, because it's got a button you can press that makes your phone ring.
That's a great feature.
I think that'll, I don't even think it needs to tell her the time. It's worth it.
I use that pretty often. I use it as a speakerphone. It is an extension of the phone for me, much more so than it was in the beginning. Apple has done such a good job at making the Apple Watch itself, but watchOS, the software that runs on it, just better and better over time. And yeah, the applications are more limited when you look at what they can do on the phone. But we all have the 2 or 3 that we use. You mentioned OmniFocus. For me, a big one is day one as well, to do quick entry on day one and have it sync up. They actually just had an update very recently that made a lot of that better, that I'm looking forward to exploring hopefully this weekend. But there's little sort of interactive things you can do on the watch that don't mean going over and picking up the phone, which again is unique to the Apple Watch because it's all baked in by the same company, right? They can do this because they build the software and hardware on both sides of the equation.
We should put a pin in it. At some point, I want to talk about how we do journaling with our tech.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think that's something to talk about. Anyway, so must you have an Apple Watch to take advantage of fitness and health with your iPhone?
You don't. Again, the Fitbit and these other applications, even if you just have your phone in your pocket, it's counting your steps. You don't have to have an Apple Watch to take advantage of this, but the Apple Watch does improve the quality and types of data that are collected because it has all these sensors. I love the way you said it. It's your buddy watching your back all the time.
Yeah.
It just adds to the base experience of just having an iPhone.
And it also captures data when your iPhone's not with you. I mean, on the days I work from home, my dirty secret is my phone is usually not with me, often not even in the same room as me. And it's great because I can grab calls on the watch. It collects, standing data and all the heart rate data and all that stuff while I'm going around. I can get messages just looking at my wrist. And it's really fun. And that's what, I guess that's one reason why I don't feel bad about buying the big phone either, because it's not constantly in my pocket.
Right. I've struggled with this particular point. My Series 3 I bought with LTE. And I had this, this vision of I can go for a bike ride or a run or just go to the grocery store, use Apple Pay, get a phone call, get iMessage, and leave my phone behind. And the reality of it was, at least for me in my own experience, I just didn't do that very often. There was something that the watch couldn't do. A lot of the time it was podcasts. That's better now with Watch OS 5 and those new tools that like people like Marco, like Overcast being on the watch is huge for me. But I just always brought the phone with me anyway. So my Series 4 actually is not cellular. I went with just the aluminum Wi-Fi only model, and I would like at some point again in the future, maybe not this time, but maybe at some point trying this again where I can just walk out the door with just my watch. But for me, at least, it didn't really pan out that way. And I'm glad it's working for you, and I think it works for a lot of people. But for some reason, for me, it just didn't quite stick.
I'm terrible at surfing. I'm in California. You got to do this stuff, right? I'm terrible at it, but I go out and try. But I've decided this year I'm going to do more boogie boarding, which is much easier, and now I'm deciding, am I going to wear now that I have the Series 4 with cellular, am I going to wear it into the ocean? I don't know. I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah. Hey, you're like way cooler than I am now. It's like, I'm just going to picture you surfing. It's all the time. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The watch is additive to this conversation, right? It is a satellite to the iPhone. But I do think at some point in the future, you could maybe get by with just an Apple Watch, like, looking 10 years down. I don't know. I'm terrible at predicting the future, but at some point I could see it sort of graduating to being a sibling of the iPhone, not a child of the iPhone, if you will. But for now, you got to kind of understand that it is an extension of the phone. I think more so than it's a standalone device, at least for most people.
Yeah, but I think I'd conclude this just saying, look, if you want to get really serious about health tracking, a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, even a year-old Apple Watch, if is going to dramatically increase the accuracy and quality of the data you're collecting. So, something you may want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's get to the nitty-gritty of exercise. The Activity app is Apple's kind of catch-all exercise application, and it's got a whole bunch of different exercises in it. Every year with a new update, they add additional categories. Like this year, they added the training, where you go and they cross between like rowing and weightlifting, and you do these workouts that jump between different modes. But they added that. But even for rowing, walking, running, just about any exercise you can think of, they've got listed in there. So you decide you want to start doing the exercise. You go on your watch. And you go into the Activity app, you pick the exercise you're about to do, and you press the start button. And then it just tracks for you. And then the watch is using a little more power. It's checking your heart rate more often. And it's like if you're running, it's checking your distance. And if you've got, it's actually recording your path. If you've got the watch, with the Geo built in. And it's just kind of like I said, your little buddy now is just keeping track of what you're doing during your specific exercise. And when you're done, you press stop and it saves it, and you've now collected some really great data about your exercise. One of the nice things they did with the most recent release of the WatchOS is because people always forget, nothing worse than finishing like a 2-mile hike and realizing you didn't start your workout.
The worst.
Yeah. It's like, now I'm not going to get credit, and Steven's not going to send me any unicorns. It's just going to suck, right? And now it fixes that for you. In fact, when I was in Seattle, for those of you who've never been to Seattle, the whole city's built on a hill. So it's pretty good for your heart walking around. And Rose and I had we were the hotel we were staying in was kind of far away from. Well, it wasn't that far away. It was like 15 minutes away from the event. So we would walk together to the event, and I would always get to the event, and my watch would say, "Hey, looks like you just did a workout. You want me to give you credit for that?" And I'd say, "That's cool. Why, yes, little watch. I would like that very much."
And on the other end of it, so if you've been working out and then you get distracted leaving the gym and you get in your car, instead of having an hour-long session, it'll say, "Oh, hey, it looks like you've stopped working out." You just get a little vibration, a little sound, and you can say, "Yes, actually, I did finish my workout." So it's keeping an eye on both sides now, which I really like because I forgot all the time.
The watch has sound on it, and almost everybody I know turns it off like permanently.
Same. Yep, me.
I have to admit, though, when you start a workout in the activity app, it does the beeping sound that I equate with Olympic downhill skiing, It's the 3 beeps with the high pitch beep at the end. If you've ever watched the Winter Olympics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It does that as you start your workout. And that makes me smile every time, so much so that sometimes I will turn the sound on the watch before I start a workout just so I can have those beeps. I am such a weirdo, and I know it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
At the heart of the activity app, though, are the 3 rings, which, Apple's done all the marketing around, and it hasn't really changed since the beginning, but there are 3 of them. You've got Move, which is red. You have Exercise, which is green. And you have Stand, which is blue. And they interact with each other, but Move looks at your active calories you've burned so far. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you have exercise, but, getting up, moving around, walking around the office, whatever, that's slowly and surely, filling up over the day. You have Exercise, which is brisk activity that you've completed so far during the day. And again, like we said, watchOS now will do its best to detect start and finish of that, which is really handy. And then you have Stand, which is just looking at the number of hours in which you've stood and moved for at least a minute. So this is the one that I've got reminders turned on for this because, a lot of days I'm just at my desk sitting and it'll ping me and say, "Hey, you've been here for a while," and I use that opportunity to get up, walk into the house, get a cup of water, get a snack, which is probably not what the health app wants me to do, but whatever, and make sure that I'm on my feet a little bit. And over the day, they start to fill up, and then you fill one of them up, and you have a really cool animation, and if you can fill all 3 up, which is sort of the ultimate goal, and all that gets logged in the activity app, so you can go back in time and see how you've performed over time. So for me, I always like this if I'm someplace like WWDC or like you said, PodCon, where it's pretty easy to fill your rings if you're walking 20 minutes back and forth a couple times a day, as opposed to a day you're just in the office. And you can kind of see over time how you do. So for me, I like to start my week with exercise. Monday morning, I'm in the gym, and Mondays really consistently I fill my rings. Tuesdays is a bit of a struggle for me some days. So I can see that over time and make decisions about how I plan my week, how I plan my exercise. And it's all based on these 3 rings that just slowly fill up over a 24-hour period.
Yeah, and just a safety tip, when you get the Stand notice that says, "Hey, you haven't stood for a while," that is not, filling your Stand loop by going downstairs and eating potato chips isn't exactly what they meant. Not that I've ever done that.
No. I don't know what that's like.
But there's real science behind that. I mean, people who sit all day, they go on the ground sooner, and that's just something that's easily avoided if we would try and do something about it. So it was really educational for me when I got my first Apple Watch, because I had a Fitbit for a long time, and the Fitbit I had didn't have heart rate tracking. It was before they did that, and I know they do it now, so it's okay. You don't have to write me. But the but I had the kind that was like a little pill thing you stuck in your pocket, and I didn't realize I wasn't doing anything for my heart rate, and I took that really serious when I realized the red ring was not filling on my new Apple Watch with the old workouts I was doing. So now I'm regularly I hike up into these mountains around me, so I get heart rate. I do some yoga, which man, that kills me. I'll tell you that I have so much respect for anybody that's good at yoga. My wife was telling me, "Let's go do it together." I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere public. You should see how it is not a pretty picture. Just put it that way. But,
oh man.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think the watch, it's a good example of, putting this, when you put this technology to work, it actually can change your habits and maybe improve your health.
One last thing on the activity rings. It used to be, I believe, where it was just what the watch was tracking itself. But at some point, like the health app, Apple has integrated other apps into activity. So if you use a third-party workout app, and there are several, I use a couple on a regular basis, they will contribute to your rings. So one I use really frequently is called Strava. It tracks bike rides and runs, and I use it because it has a really vibrant community in it. So basically everyone I ride with has a Strava account, so we can all see where we've gone. It puts it on a map. You have segments and all that stuff. And now I can start a ride in Strava, actually on my Apple Watch, and it will auto pause if I stop. And at the end of the ride, I can hit finish, and it will sync not only to Strava, but it will sync to the health app and to the activity rings. And so I can, after it takes a second, after it syncs, I can see that green ring fill up with an hour and a half bike ride that I didn't tell the watch itself I was bike riding. I tracked it in a third-party application. But again, that information is shared. So I'm getting credit even though I wasn't necessarily using like the built-in official workouts app.
Yeah, there's a lot of third-party apps coming into this space. Another one is Workouts Plus Plus, which is, I think it's a little more fluid. I mean, it just seems like they're coming up with additional workouts that Apple doesn't. They're more nimble, I think, in terms of adding new workouts to that app. But I know a lot of people prefer that one because it gives them the right workout where the Apple one doesn't necessarily do it. And it doesn't matter which one you use. You can use Activity. You can use Workouts Plus Plus. The data is still going into that health app that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm. Workouts Plus Plus is made by our friend _ David Smith. And why I really like it is that he has this really great configuration tool. So you can open the app and you can track different types of metrics based on workout. And again, Apple does that in its own app, but sometimes I want to see other things. And if you're really particular about tracking one metric, so say that you're running and you really want to look at like one specific like pace or maybe average heart rate, you're trying to keep your heart rate in a specific zone, well, you can just add that to the Workouts Plus Plus sort of home screen on your watch. So when you lift your wrist while you're running, you can see that. It's really powerful if you want more than just what the Workouts app does. I think like last year, he made it free. So it's just free to download. And again, it all stores in health and activity and everything. But if you want a little more data or a lot more customization, it's one that I definitely recommend to people.
Yeah, and I guess the point to make here is there are so many apps to collect exercise data. There's ones that I think it was at Run Zombies. It's you play it while you're running, and it tells you that you're being chased by zombies to motivate you to run faster.
Yeah.
And that'll send information to the health app. I mean, whatever activity you're involved in, there's probably 15 apps at least for it. So I would recommend, whatever it is you like to do, go to the App Store and start looking around at the apps. Like I said, I've been doing the hiking, and I bicycle a lot, but I kind of cheat because my bike has a motor on it for the big hills.
That is cheating.
So I'm not gonna get in your club there because you guys will, Well, that's a whole nother thing, but it is kind of fun to pass real bicyclists going up hills and just say on your left. and then they say various things to me as I go past. It's kind of fun. But anyway, no matter what you do, so we're trying this yoga thing now. And like I said, I'm not going anywhere public to do this. So I've been trying a couple apps. I don't know that I could recommend either one of them yet, but the two that I like the most are Asana Rebel and Yoga Studio. And I don't know if anybody's out there and they have one they'd like to recommend, put it in the forums or send us a note or something, because I can't find the right one for that just yet. But my point is there is so much. And they all feed information to the health app, and you don't have to use Apple's Activity app.
Yeah. Something nice about a lot of these apps too, they're not only track, but like with the yoga ones in particular, they'll instruct, right? So you can see, okay, how am I supposed to do this exercise or this move or lift these weights? Because a lot of it is like safety stuff. You want to make sure that you're doing things appropriately and correctly. One thing that I love that's sort of tangential to this is that in my gym, all of the fitness equipment has QR codes on it. And you can scan them, which is with the built-in camera in iOS, and it'll take you to a web page. It's really simple and has a video of like, hey, this is how you do this. So like if you don't want to ask or you can't find an attendant, you can make sure you're doing it safely. Like there are just so many options for this now. And like I was scrolling through the App Store in preparation for this, and it's an abundant of riches when it comes to picking workout and training apps.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let us know your favorite ones, and we'll leave it at that before we get on to the next subject. This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to us by our longtime sponsors and friends over at the Omni Group. And specifically today, I'd like to talk about OmniGraffle. OmniGraffle is the Omni Group's application for making beautiful, precise graphics. And I am not a graphics professional, never have been one. When I try to draw pictures with a pencil, it's pretty terrible, but OmniGraffle has been kind of my secret weapon on images for a long time because they've just made a really accessible yet powerful application. Someone who's not a graphic artist like me can pick it up, and it does all sorts of cool tricks. I mean, I think they were one of the first ones, for instance, to have magnetic lines. When you draw a square and then you attach a line to it and you move the square around, the line just goes with it. It just takes care of that stuff for you. And using this, it makes it really easy to put together basic or even complex diagrams. So if you're a student or you're in business or you do anything where you need to give people information in a visual way, and trust me, that really helps. OmniGraffle can be a great tool at your side for it. And they've got two different versions. They've got a professional and a standard version, so you can go online and download the free trials to see which one scratches the itch for you. But OmniGraffle is something that you can easily pick up. They've got videos to kind of show you how it works. And in addition to making it easy for you to put these graphics together, it also makes it super easy to export them. For instance, I use OmniGraffle graphics all the time in presentations that I give. And with OmniGraffle, it's just a couple taps to export that image as a PNG image with no background. So all the geeks know what that means. I can just drop it into Keynote and it has no background on it. So it looks beautiful right in the middle of my slide. And that's just one example of the way I use it. Another example is we make our Christmas card every year, and I do it in OmniGraffle. You got my card this year, right, Stephen?
I did, and it was very good.
Yeah, we went all Andy Warhol, and I used OmniGraffle to make it. So it's it's just an application. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for graphics on your Mac or iPad, or and the iPad version, by the way, is also excellent. So head over to omnigroup.com and check out OmniGraffle. They have a free trial, so there's no excuse not to download the trial and kick the tires a little bit. Do watch a few of the videos and just kind of try and make something basic. But like I said, if you ever need to make an image to represent something, there's nothing better. That's OmniGraffle over at theomnigroup.com. Thanks, OmniGroup, for sponsoring the Mac Power Users.
So another category of apps and services to consider when we're talking about adding tech to our health and fitness, or I'm kind of categorizing them as like food tracking, calorie tracking, weight loss, like that sort of genre of applications. And it seems like there are two big ones. In fact, I've used one and you've used the other.
Yeah.
So maybe we can compare notes here.
Yeah. So what you're using Lose It, right?
Yes, I've used Lose It, not so much in the last couple of years, but for years and years used it to input calories, keep up with calorie counting, and try to gain some understanding about my diet and how that interacted with my exercise.
Yeah, and I used Lose It originally, but I have as I'll talk about later, I have a Withings scale that measures my weight, and at some point, the free version didn't support that, and this was years ago. Maybe it does now. I don't know. But so I didn't want to pay for the premium just to get it to auto capture my weight. And the other big one, MyFitnessPal, does support that. And I've had a free version of MyFitnessPal ever since. And it's the same thing. MyFitnessPal plugs into the Apple Health data. So, for instance, when I do a workout, it shows in my daily calorie, and when I weigh myself on my smart scale, it collects my weight. But the thing I find it really useful is just keeping track of what I eat. I have this issue. I guess I'm getting a little older and metabolism is slowing down, and I'm still exercising and eating pretty good, but I feel like I'm getting a little chunky, and I want to do something about that. And so I've got to be more careful about what I eat. And every time I write down everything I eat during the day, I eat better. I guess that's obvious, but if I'm going to do that, I need an application that makes it easy, and that's what MyFitnessPal does. So with MyFitnessPal, no matter where, like restaurant stuff you go to, they've almost always got all the data in there. And it's here's a power tip: like if you're going to a restaurant, and you're about to order something, go ahead and plug it in before you order it, because you'll see, you're like, wait a second, this is 1,500 calories.
Yeah, I'm going to change my mind.
Yeah, exactly. It has that effect occasionally. But the other thing that MyFitnessPal does that's cool is it's got a barcode scanner. So a lot of the food I eat is just stuff I get at the market, and like if I'm gonna have some Campbell's gumbo soup, I have to go ahead and scan the barcode on it, and it just collects the data if it didn't already have it in there. So it just makes it ridiculously easy to write down what you eat. And that's why I like MyFitnessPal. That one also has a social element to it. I think Lose It does as well. I haven't done much of that. Maybe I should think about that at some point, because I think just like the exercise, I think having people hold me accountable would be a good thing.
Absolutely. And Lose It is very similar in feature set. I mean, trying to compare them, they're very similar. Lose It does all the same things. The super easy search and input for tracking calories. It can even use like location data to try to like put you in a restaurant, which I think is cool. And it does a thing that I really like you said, it integrates your exercise information, because those two things, when you're talking about health and fitness, like diet and exercise are in some ways two sides of the same coin, where you can be eating and basically where you're working out has very little effect when it comes to calories burned because of your diet. And you've got to balance those things. And these sort of applications can make that relationship easier to see. And that was really eye-opening to me when I started doing this. So like, oh, if I do this at lunch and like my hour in the gym, like it doesn't even cancel each other out yet, And so having a better understanding of that is really critical. And these applications make it really easy to see how those things kind of bounce off each other.
Agreed. And I think you just use whichever one you like better. They both have premium models. I don't think necessarily you have to sign up for the premium. I have not. And it's just fine for giving me the data I need. And then I think the other thing is the social thing is kind of important. If you want to do this with other people, you all need to be on the same page. I just said y'all. I don't think I've ever said that before.
Oh, man. Oh, it's starting, buddy.
Well, my dad's from Missouri. He used to say all sorts of weird stuff.
There you go. Well, we'll accept you.
Yeah.
Another sort of app that's kind of like these, and I have struggled to find good examples of this. So again, this is one where like if you have a good example, I'd love to hear it. There are some applications at the App Store that say you can plug in like your food allergies and scan or search, and it can tell you if something may or may not be, in violation of those allergies or those sensitivities. Like I said, I've had real mixed luck with that over the years. I don't use one of those on a regular basis, and I have a lot of food allergy stuff, but those are out there as well. So if you have like a specific need or want to know, can this fit into this sort of restriction, those are out there, but maybe just pay attention to what they're saying. And I don't think that's a reason to skip reading a label, which is what I do now. It's like, oh, I know what those words mean, but they're out there as well if you have that sort of need.
Yeah, I was looking, in the MPU forums, someone was started a thread about water tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I don't have that much experience with. I honestly, I drink water all day. I haven't written it down, but it's just the drink I usually prefer.
Right.
So I'm just assuming I'm getting enough. But I know you've looked into it a little bit.
I have. So WaterMinder is the application that sort of, excuse this, floated to the top of our water tracking discussion thread.
I see what you did there.
It's really good. That. It's $5 on the iOS App Store, and it is like a complete, like full featured health app. So you can enter stuff. You can even do it with Siri. So you can just say, hey, log 8 ounces of water, and it will add it. Again, it integrates with health, so you can track this over time. It gives you recommendations of, you're this height, you're this weight. This is your your lifestyle, like active or semi-active or something like that, and it will give you some recommendations, and it'll even give you reminders. So if you're like me, where like my natural inclination is not to drink water all day, it'll just say, hey, it's 3:00. You haven't logged any water recently. Maybe you should, go get a glass of water next time you get up. It's great. This application is nice. I've spent a lot of time in it. But if you don't want to spend the $5, HealthKit, the health app, most of its input is actually exposed in the Shortcuts app. So I have a shortcut in the show notes that is really simple, one step. You hit it and you basically say, this is how much water I've had to drink. And then it adds it to the health app automatically. I think Water Reminder is nice because it gives you the reminders and the recommendations. But if all you're after is just tracking, somebody like you, David, I'm already drinking water, but I'm kind of curious about how much it actually is. And this shortcut can be a nice way to sort of quantify that.
I think just the idea of using Siri shortcuts to capture health data is something that people probably haven't considered. And it is a ridiculously easy shortcut to create, even if you haven't done many shortcuts.
Really easy.
You just drag it in and you list the activity and it goes in. And so that's something to think about.
Yeah. You can also use something like Streaks for this. So Streaks is an app that it does a lot of things. Basically, it is like a habit-forming, habit-building app. And you can put everything from like take the dog out to like wave to my neighbor. But one thing you can do in it is track different health and fitness things. So maybe it is, hey, I want to drink 4 glasses of water during the day. Or, hey, I want to go to the gym 3 days a week. Streaks can be a way to track that over time and to make sure that you're doing what past you said you wanted to do. It's not an application that I personally use, but I know a lot of people find this sort of thing really powerful. And like Streaks is beautiful and really well designed, and it's a great way to have that sort of motivation if it's something that you respond to well.
Yeah, and in terms of measuring, the same thing goes for your weight. When it first became available, I bought a Withings scale, Withings. I don't even think they make the one I have anymore. I've lost track. I've probably had it 4 years now, and it's great. You have to replace the batteries about every 3 or 4 months, but you just stand on the thing in the morning, and then MyFitnessPal knows how much I weigh, and there's no cheating. There's no opportunity, and it's so easy because you just stand on it. And I love it when the robots do all the work in the background. And it's the same thing. I don't have to go find a window and log it in or forget to. It just the only thing I do is stand on the scale, and the internet does the rest for me. So I think that's something, if you're interested in like routine measurements, technology can be your friend. And my guess is I've been very happy with this Withings scale, so I would recommend buying another one. But my guess is they're probably better now and probably do even more than mine does.
I've got one as well. Actually, about the same time frame yours is, I think. I was looking through their website earlier, and they do all sorts of fancy stuff now. They do BMI indexing. It all works over Wi-Fi and talks to your phone. Like, I've really been happy with mine. And we just had like a kind of a El Cheapo, like drugstore scale before this. And I was like, well, I'll splurge on this because I had a lot of stuff going on. I was like, I really want to track my weight really specifically over time. And it was a great purchase for us. My wife and I both really love it. I am not using Lose It currently, but one of my favorite things in it was being able to plot my weight on a graph. And so I came across this application called Happy Scale. And it has the most adorable icon you've ever seen. It's a bathroom scale with a smiley face. Like, it's a win right off the bat for the icon. And you can plug your weight into it. Again, it works with the health app and it syncs all that data across. But it gives you basically any way you would want to chart your weight, it can do it. So you can say, I just want from this date to this date, or I want my entire history goes back to like 2014. I want to see all of it. I want to see my goal weight and see how my weight has interacted with my goal over time, both over and under. It's really powerful, but really easy to use. If you're like me and you love graphs, this is the app for you. And you can back all the data up to Dropbox, even though it syncs with the health app. It has some nice data import-export features. This is an app that I haven't heard talked about a lot of places, but I absolutely adore.
All right, I'm downloading it. I'm in.
Yeah. Look how happy he is.
Yeah. I'm going to try and talk you into MyFitnessPal, and then we can send each other rainbow unicorns over our weight and food as well.
You're going to see how many nights I just eat a bowl of cereal for dinner. I don't think I'm ready to share that.
All right, but so there are some definite options out there for auto weight tracking, and if you're bringing the geek tools to the table, this is something you may want to do.
Absolutely, and we should say that all of this stuff is great for contextualization, to kind of understand what's going on with your diet and exercise and what's going on with your body, but none of this should be taken as the only way to do this. Like, if you have real concerns, of course, go talk to a doctor, go talk to a dietitian or nutritionist. There are lots of people who can help you form plans, but also, like you said earlier, sharing that data with your doctor. Like, if you are plotting all of this and keeping up with it all, you can go in armed with that information. And that's what I love about all these tools, is that I can have an informed conversation with a healthcare provider about what's going on in my life, because I take a little bit of time each day to track this stuff as I go.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy all these fancy things to do the same stuff. We know that. You don't even have to tell us. We know. But I guess I should say that, because later in the outline, I have just a mother load of geeky fitness equipment.
You've picked some wild stuff.
Yeah. Well, I just let my mind roam free with the internet.
That's a dangerous game, my friend. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by our friends at Luna Display. Have you ever just looked at your iPad and wished you could use it as a second display for your Mac? Well, Luna Display lets you do just that. And it makes perfect sense, because your iPad has this gorgeous display. Especially if you got the big one, it's a lot of screen real estate. And maybe it's not in use when you're at your Mac. So you could put it to use that extra space while working with Mac OS. Luna Display provides crystal clear image quality, reliable performance, and wireless flexibility. You just pop this little hardware dongle into your Mac and you're good to go. So I have the USB-C one on the back of my iMac Pro. Itty bitty, not hanging off anywhere, not making a clutter, but it makes this work great. And if for some reason you don't have Wi-Fi, you can just connect via USB, so you're not stranded, somewhere where the Wi-Fi is not working. When using the Luna Display, you can set up your workspace anywhere. So you can be productive in the office, in the studio, or on the go. And you don't have the expense of buying a second screen, because you already bought the iPad. You don't have to have this big external display that you're not using all the time. You can reuse what you've already invested in. Luna Display acts as a complete extension to your Mac. So you're going to get support for your external keyboard, Apple Pencil, and touch interactions. You can interact with your Mac with just a swipe of a finger. It kind of turns your Mac into an iOS app in sort of a weird inside-out way, but it's a way that I really love. I've been really impressed with my Luna Display. Like I said, I have the USB-C version. It works flawlessly between my iMac Pro and my iPad, and the process is really easy. Get their application, get it installed, and I've really come to love it, using my iPad as a reference monitor. So I know you and I both talked about, while we're recording our shows, having the recording software off to the side on the iPad, so I can keep an eye on it, but it's not cluttering, the notes and everything I'm looking at. But I really have come to love it too in the bookkeeping and administrative work that I do, that I can have say a really long PDF or something I need to interact with on my Mac, but just have it off to the side as a reference, and I can interact with it as I need to. Listeners of Mac Power Users can get an exclusive 10% discount on their Luna Display. Just go to lunadisplay.com and enter the promo code POWER at checkout. That's lunadisplay.com and promo code POWER at checkout. Our thanks to Luna Display for their support of this show and Relay FM.
All right, moving on in health and fitness, I want to talk a little bit about sleep tracking. I think if there was one thing I did to improve my health in 2018, it was the year that I said I got serious about sleep tracking, because it makes such a big difference when you get enough sleep and you get good quality sleep. And how do you know if you're getting good quality sleep? With the technology, actually, it really can lend a hand.
Absolutely. And all of this stuff, I kind of feel like I have a good thumb on how I'm eating, how my exercise is going. But I find it personally hard to quantify the quality of my sleep. I don't sleep super well, and sometimes it's way worse than I expected and sometimes way better. But I've actually, like you, have implemented some tech so I can, again, have an informed conversation. I can actually know what's going on as opposed to just like, well, I don't know, I'm tired like 3 days a week. I must not be sleeping well. Now I have actual numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And the science behind sleep, and there's way more to it than we're going to talk about today. But you have the REM cycles, which is one thing. How often do you get into deep sleep while you're asleep? And then the other thing, which is kind of interesting, is the idea of having an alarm clock that knows your body, that knows when is an opportune time to wake you up, as opposed to when you're in deep sleep. Sometimes you wake up and it feels like you just got hit on the head with a hammer because you're coming straight out of deep sleep.
Right.
You know the feeling, right?
I do.
So there's some tech there to help you. So what are you using to do it? So you are sleep tracking then, right?
I am probably like half the time, not every night.
Sure.
And
Sure.
part of that is I just don't, sometimes I just don't think about it, or sometimes like maybe I exercise during the day. My watch battery isn't where I need it to be, but I do sleep track with the Apple Watch. And the number one question is just that: how do I make it all day and then sleep all night and the battery not croak on my Apple Watch? And what I have found is that the thing charges pretty quickly. And so if I take it off, say during dinner, so it's off my wrist for say 45 minutes or an hour, dinner, clean up the kitchen. And then by the time I'm ready to go pick it up, it's got plenty of charge for the night. And again, in the morning, take it off, shower, brush my teeth, eat breakfast, that sort of morning routine, pick it up, and it's ready to go for the day. This is especially true, I feel like, with the Series 3 and 4. Older watches, it may be more of a struggle. But if you're strategic about when you charge your Apple Watch, you can definitely sleep track like every single day pretty easily, I think.
I occasionally read from some of our friends who say they just charge their watch while they're taking a shower and then they're fine and they can wear it the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. I haven't found that to be the case. I do quite a few workouts, so I do think I use up more battery. But I do find if I just have I put it on the charger in the morning while I am doing my shower, and I do. We're going to talk in a minute. I do a meditation in the morning. That's 30 minutes. So I do a couple things in the morning where I don't need to have a watch on, and that does a pretty good job. And then usually what I do in the evening, the same thing. I put it back on the charger, maybe when I put my pajamas on, and then just when I go to bed, it's ready to go. The other thing you do, if that doesn't make sense for you, is just buy another watch cable. And like I've got an extra watch charging cable in my office, and sometimes if things start going a little sideways and I'm in the middle of the day and the watch battery's low, I can just take it off. Usually I set a timer on the watch for like 40 minutes because I don't want to lose my standing credit, right? So I'll set a timer on the watch and I'll put it on the charger for like 45 minutes, and then that's enough. But you can absolutely do sleep tracking with a watch if you're just a little mindful about making sure you have a charge in it.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. So what app are you using on the watch to track that?
I've been going, I don't really have a favorite. I'd love to hear from people about what their favorites are and why. Sleep Cycle was the one I started with, and that was before even, I think, Apple Watch, where you would just set it under your pillow and it would monitor that way. But I never really felt that great about having a charging phone under my pillow. So, and Sleep Cycle is probably the original, in terms of sleep monitoring and waking you up, when you're outside of the REM cycle. And, that's one a lot of people like. They've added a bunch of features. They have a subscription for a premium package. And I just haven't stayed on the bandwagon with that one. Like, one of the features they have is it will record you snoring and then you can listen to it.
Nope.
You know what? I guess that's a good idea, but that's just a little too much reality for me. I don't think I want that. And I don't like the idea of a microphone just being in my bedroom either. So I don't know. So I moved on. The one I use the most these days is our friend David _ Sleep Plus Plus. He's added a feature to that where it's just automatic now. You don't have to push a button on your watch before you go to sleep. You just go to sleep with your watch on, and then in the morning, it takes all the motion data from your watch and sends it over to your phone. And I find it's pretty accurate. It usually knows when I went to sleep and when I woke up. And when I have a rough night, maybe something happens. We had a windstorm here last night. So at about 2:00 in the morning, I had to get up and do some things. And then when I looked at my sleep data this morning, there it was. It reported me being awake at 2:00 in the morning, and And so I think the data he gets is pretty good, and I like that it's so simple. AutoSleep is another one. The company that makes AutoSleep makes two apps. They make AutoSleep and AutoWake, and AutoSleep does the same thing. It automatically tracks your sleep, and then AutoWake uses the watch motion data to find the optimum time to wake you up. And I tried AutoWake, and I haven't been able to make it work for me because it just doesn't seem to work. I don't, I mean, you have to have it as a complication on a specific face. And I've had mornings where either the alarm wasn't assertive enough or it just didn't wake me up. By the way, on this subject, I love having the watch on me, not only in addition to track my sleep, but also to wake me up because it wakes me up by tapping my wrist. So if my wife isn't getting up at the same time I am, I don't have an alarm blasting to wake her up.
Yeah, it's great. So I use Sleep Plus Plus. AutoSleep has its interface is busier, and I just want like really simple data. So Sleep Plus Plus is it for me. One sort of trick that I think people should know about: if you're going to sleep with an Apple Watch on, you can put it into theater mode. So if you swipe up and you go into the control center, it's the happy sad masks guys, and basically what that means is if you turn your wrist over, your watch screen will not light up. It'll only light up if it gets tapped. That is huge if you toss and turn at night and you don't want to blind someone in bed with you. But the other thing I do is I have a watch face just for sleep. So I use the utility watch face, and the only thing I put on it is time, and I choose the dark red color. So it's very dim if it does light up at night, as opposed to my normal watch face, which is like full of colorful complications. So it can be a really nice sort of like discreet deal if the screen does come on. But that theater mode is a lifesaver where you're not going to blast light into your bedroom.
Yeah, it took a little getting used to for my wife to realize that I'm wearing a watch to bed, a digital watch to bed. It's like, really? You're going to wear your watch to bed, huh? But yeah, that's a great idea about having a specific face on it with the red. I'm going to do that. Good old utility face. Still probably the best face.
I think it is.
Yeah.
There are some other solutions out here. You mentioned Sleep Cycle, which, like you said, started life as like sticking your iPhone under your mattress or whatever. There are a couple of like sleep tracking mats, I guess is the best way to say it. So Withings makes one, and then Bedit, which is actually owned by Apple, by the way. They bought this company last year or the year before. And these are pretty similar products. They plug in via USB or whatever, and they're just a thin mat that you put under your sheets, and so it can track body position, quality of sleep, heart rate, breathing, snoring. If that's your deal, it can basically track that information without having a watch on your wrist. For me, I already own an Apple Watch. The information I get out of Sleep Plus Plus is enough. It gives me the data that I want. So I haven't investigated these personally, but there are other options out there if you want a little bit more, or you don't own an Apple Watch or don't want to wear one while you sleep.
Yeah, I feel like you and I are in the same place on this. The sleep data has really helped me, and also Apple has this built-in feature. I forget the name. Is it called Bedtime? Where
Bedtime.
It gives you a notification. You tell it when ideally you're going to be waking up, and it'll set an alarm for you, and it'll tell you when you should be going to sleep for that. Sleep Plus Plus has a similar feature built in. I like the idea that Apple's including it in the operating system, but I don't like the alarms that Bedtime uses. And getting back to that silent tap on your wrist as an alarm, I really don't think you can beat that. And then I don't hate some songs. Like if you use a song to wake you up, then you end up hating that song because it's the thing that drags you out of sleep. So you got to pick a song you hate to begin with. So then you're starting the day with a song you hate. There's just no win there, right? So the silent tap works great. But getting back to my point, I feel like the amount of data I get out of Sleep Plus Plus is fine. Some of these apps seem like they want to give you more information. I'm not sure how accurate it can be. I mean, it's just a thing strapped to your wrist all night, but I'm perfectly fine with what I'm getting. The amount of sleep I'm getting and a general idea of my restfulness during the sleep. And it really does equate. Like the days I feel bad, I look and say, yeah, I did have a bad night last night. Totally unrelated. Are you a napper?
Very rarely. Most of that, I think, is just my phase of life with kids in the house. It's just not feasible most of the time, but on occasion.
Yeah, I got a killer Siri shortcut for naps. I'll polish it up and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. I'm really curious.
Because you need a nap for me. If I sleep a nap longer than 30, I like naps. Don't do them every day, but I do them often. And but if they're longer than 30 minutes, it messes me up because I think there's science, like drags you into deeper sleep, blah, blah, blah. But, so I've got a Siri shortcut that puts the phone on Do Not Disturb, sets a timer, and does a couple other things. And then after the alarm goes off for the nap, it reverses all that. And, but it's got to run the whole time. It's kind of cool. I'll put it in the show notes.
Cool.
All right, now we get to go hippie on the show. It's funny because this is the coming out week for me in meditation because the most recent episode of Focus that dropped, the Chris Bailey wrote a book and he had a section there on meditation. I said, all right, I'll just admit I've been doing it since 1990. Yeah, I'm from California. What do you expect, right? But so I get real benefits out of it. If you want to hear an extended discussion of why I think meditation is a great idea, go listen to Focus. That was pretty cool. You see how I did that? Yeah, but it really does help, believe it or not. And once again, there's a lot of studies and science that show I think this stuff can help you sort things out. But but there's some great apps for it if you're interested in starting on it. Now, I guess what's your position on meditation? You haven't done it, right?
I haven't done it. I don't have any strong opinions on it because I don't have any firsthand experience, to be honest.
Just not your thing. That's okay. And there's a lot of people that feel that way. But if you're interested in it, there's a couple things. First, Apple has that Breathe app on the Apple Watch, which was Apple's way, Cupertino style. Hey, maybe you should try this. And I think most people immediately turn that off.
I did. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't use.
Maybe I should turn it back on. Maybe I need to experiment some more.
I don't. I leave it on. The meditation I do is through a different app, and I don't use that as like my focus meditation. I do occasionally. I like having it on because occasionally when it goes off, I'll say, "Well, when that went off, was I in a good space?" I'm so granola, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everybody outside California. How I talk, but anyway, so I leave it on, but I don't really use it that often. But there are some great meditation apps if you want to kind of get into it. It doesn't. What I said on Focus is true. It doesn't matter what it's not a religious thing. It's really, I think, a practice thing. And if it is a religious thing for you, please don't get mad at me. But for people who aren't, Buddhists or whatever, this is something I think everybody can benefit from. The app I would recommend is Headspace. It's got full-on courses they walk you through. And I think it's 30-day free trial, so you can just give it a try and see if it does it for you. Another good one that has tutorials in it is called Calm. I've been doing it a long time. A lot of times when I meditate, I don't need someone talking in my ear. It's distracting for me. So I use just a real basic one, which is in effect a glorified timer. And it's called Samsara, Massara. And I'll put links for those 3 in there. But, this stuff is part of health and fitness, and it's totally more accessible. See, I'm from California. You said totally. It's more accessible using this technology. Like when I wanted to learn how to meditate, I had to go to a place where I learned all about it. And maybe you're not in a place where you can do that, or you don't have time to get in a car and go somewhere. These applications can really take you pretty far down that road.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna turn the Breathe app back on. I'm gonna dip my toe in the water.
Well, if you were going to dip your toe in the water, I would recommend. I know. I don't know. I'm not going to hold you to this, but if you're going to, if you were listening to this and you want to dip your toe in the water, I would recommend just download Headspace and just try the free 30 days and just see if it helps or not.
Okay.
And the problem with meditation is that you feel foolish when you start it because the whole idea of it is just to pay attention to what's going on in your brain. And you feel like a dummy when you do it at the beginning, but then all of a sudden you start seeing benefits. So if you really want to try it, do that. And if you'd like to hear a whole lot more about it, Chris Bailey and I go in depth on it in the most recent, Focused episode 65. This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Squarespace. Make your next move with Squarespace. Enter offer code MPU at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase. I love Squarespace. I use it every day. It's the service that allows you to create a website easily that do just about anything you want. So you can make your next move with Squarespace. Squarespace lets you easily create a website for your next idea with a unique domain, award-winning templates, and more. Maybe you want to create an online store, or you want to create a portfolio, or maybe you just want to create a blog. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that lets you do just that. There's nothing to install, no patches to worry about, no upgrades needed. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Squarespace has got it covered. They have award-winning 24/7 customer support if you need any help, and they let you quickly and easily grab a unique domain name. And all of those award-winning templates are beautifully designed for you to show off your great ideas. And not only are they beautifully designed, they're easily adjustable. So you can make your site look just the way you want. I use Squarespace for MacSparky.com. I love so much about it, but one of the things I like is they're increasing iOS support. They just released a brand new iOS application for Squarespace that's great. And when I was heading up to Seattle, I wrote a post in the airport, which is always a bad idea, you know. Usually I have an editor or some, I use some or Grammarly or some way to check a post before I put it up. But hey, my plane's about to board. I want to post this, so I went ahead and did it. And of course, as soon as I got off the plane, I had hundreds of emails about a couple really dumb typos, But
That's
with Squarespace, I just opened up the app. They've got a phone app. I could go in there. I made the edit, fixed the typo, and I felt good. On the Lyft ride to the way to the hotel, I was able to fix it with my phone, and that's because I have Squarespace. So Squarespace plans start at just $12 a month, but you can start a trial with no credit card required by going to squarespace.com/MPU. And when you decide to sign up, use the offer code MPU to get 10% off your purchase of a website or domain and to show your support for the Mac Power users. Once again, that's squarespace.com/MPU with the code MPU to get 10% off your first purchase. We thank Squarespace for all of their support. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website.
So now we come to the point in the show where you just went out on the internet and you came back with your arms full of health and fitness smart gear.
Now, I have to make an admission. I didn't go all over the internet. I went to the Apple Store website.
Really? So all this is sold on the Apple Store?
Yeah, I didn't want to go to some sketchy, third-party vendor. I said, well, I feel like Apple does some kind of vetting before they put something in their store. And because I know there's like a gazillion things out there that help you with health and Bluetooth and whatever. But I said, well, what does Apple sell? And these are all things Apple sells. So maybe this will tickle your fancy as we go through.
Okay. So you got to start us off with the smart jump rope. What is this?
Yeah, it's a jump rope that attaches your phone and tracks your jump roping. And it gives you data into your health app as to your activity, as to how long you've jumped rope and how many loops you did. I don't have one, so I can't tell you.
Oh, there's your homework. You need.
Yeah.
Please report back.
Now, I'm not sure I do a jump rope, but boy, if they had a Bluetooth connected pogo stick, baby, I'd be all over that. Or maybe I need a Bluetooth boogie board. Well, the number of times I wipe out.
That's good. I need that information in my life. There's also a number of smart connected toothbrushes. So these things talk to apps, and they give you prompts on how long you should brush, how long you've brushed in the past, when you should change sides of your mouth, all that good stuff. That's pretty cool. If that's something, if you're that person who goes to the dentist and every time they get onto you, maybe this can keep that from happening.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? There's a UV skin sensor. A lot of people have skin that's particularly sensitive to sunlight. They've got a thing that's called My Skin Track UV, and you wear it around your neck, and it tells you how much exposure you have.
Mm-hmm. John Voorhees reviewed this over on Mac Story, so I'll have that in the show notes. And it is tiny, so you just clip it on somewhere and you're set.
Yeah.
It's sort of in the same vein, glucose monitoring kits. So people who have to track their blood sugar, that's just a very data intensive thing, right? There's a lot of numbers to keep up with, and it's really important to keep up with it over time. And so again, this device, you can check your blood sugar and it will all go into the health app. You can store it all, again, for that informed conversation.
No, I think a lot of that stuff where you've got to do regular tracking for a doctor, putting this into digital form where it automatically tracks it and gets accurate information, stuff like glucose is a great idea. We talked already about scales, but Withings makes a digital scale. They also make a blood pressure monitor. So if you've got a medical condition where it makes sense for you to take your daily blood pressure, I think that there's a real good case to be made to getting one of these Withings devices because, like I said, it's going to get the accurate results. It's going to record them digitally, give you a lot better information you can share with your doctor.
And they make tons of stuff. So they have a thermometer as well. They also have some watches that you can track steps on, but they look like analog watches. I actually had one of these that I wore for years and really loved it. I still wear it sometimes, honestly. They make a wide range of things that plug into this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, one of the things Apple sells is what they call for your bike. I was curious to see if you would be interested in this. It's called the Smart Halo Bike System.
Yes.
Have you ever checked that out?
I've seen the website before, but going through it, I really would like to pick one of these up. So it goes onto the stem of your handlebars, and it does a bunch of stuff. You can get navigation from your phone. So you say, hey, I'm going to ride from here to the coffee shop, and it'll give me the turns. You can use it as a headlight, which is great. You should have a headlight even during the day, so you're more visible. It has a security alarm. It can track your ride, your fitness, your speed and distance and all that stuff. Kind of an all-in-one deal, and it's really attractive looking. Like I would totally put this on my sort of commuter bike and enjoy it, I think. So I may pick one of these up. Maybe I'll ask this for next time, birthday or Christmas comes up. Maybe on my list.
Yeah, and the way it does things, like the directions, it does it by lights. There's like lights around the rim of it, so it lights up on the side you need to turn right on or whatever. So as a bicyclist, it allows you to keep your eye on the road the whole time.
Which is important.
Yeah, exactly. Another one that they had, I'm not a tennis player, but they've got a tennis racket swing analyzer. That's a whole bunch of stuff that, attach a gizmo to to something you use for a sport or activity and then collect data on it. And this one does that. It analyzes your tennis swing. Don't really have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's similar things for golfing and baseball, I'm sure. A lot of tracking your motion, that sort of stuff. But the next one is interesting to me, the upright posture trainer. So it is a little pod, I don't know, and it goes on your back basically, and it detects your posture. And so if you have back pain or you just want to sit up straighter, walk straighter, this can remind you to do that and again give you information on how you're doing.
For some reason, this one really turns me off. I'm not sure. I probably know that I have bad posture, and I just don't want to be reminded of it constantly.
Sit up.
There's one called the Spire Mindfulness Activity Tracker, and based on my segment earlier on meditation, you'd think I'd be all over that, but I'm not really. It measures breathing, tracks sleep, attaches to clothing. I don't know. I'm not really sure what this does that I would need. But
that's fair.
And then they also had the fingertip pulse oximeter.
Oximeter.
I know that I recently had a family member in the hospital, and they do that all the time.
Yes.
I really should have researched before the show went live exactly why they need that information, but somebody out there knows.
I can explain it. We have one of these, and not a smart one. We have a dumb one in our house. And it detects things like heart rate and that sort of thing. But the sort of the critical thing is oxygen saturation in your blood. So if you have something like sleep apnea, where that can be a struggle at night, this can give you information about that. Or some certain types of infections or diseases will impact how much oxygen you can get into your blood. So yeah, the hospital, it's sort of standard fare. So we have one, it's about this size. It clips on your finger, gives you a little readout on the screen, and it works very quickly. It's just a couple of seconds usually. But yeah, they have a smart one on the Apple Store. So again, plugs into health and all that stuff.
And I bet if we came back in a year, there'd be another 10 of these things that are measuring other things. It's just, I mean, the pedal is down on this. I mean, the rumor mills are saying Apple is pushing hard now to have the Apple Watch figure out if you've had a stroke or not. And so I feel like this is only going to get better. And at some point, I mean, at what point do the people who are resistant to wearing technology on their wrists start to say, I need this just because it's going to keep me alive? I mean, you wonder. Like I said, there's some family members that I have that are resistant to Apple Watches, but this fall detection stuff, there's some older members of my family has got their eyebrows raised. They're suddenly thinking about getting them.
Right. I mean, I remember that even when the Fitbit first came out, it was sort of a nerdy thing. We're like, why would you want to track your steps? But now, just go to the grocery store or go to Starbucks and a lot of people in all different types of lifestyles and professions and age. A bunch of people wear this sort of thing, and Fitbits have become sort of a more normal, accepted thing. The Apple Watch, definitely. You see way more Apple Watches than you used to. And I think this will only become more common as time goes on. Maybe it won't always be a watch. Maybe at some point we'll have a ring or, who knows what. But I think just we're going to see more and more of this in the future. So people, again, be more informed, make better decisions, be able to talk about their bodies and their health with actual data as opposed to just sort of subjective feelings.
Yeah. And I guess the closing point would be, this stuff really can add years to your life. So you should take it seriously. We've heard from many listeners on this. I mean, Federico, our friend on Relay, has, he survived cancer, and he has he's done a lot of medical stuff, and he's written some very touching posts about it. But all of them focus on how he's used technology to kind of turn things around for him. We'll put those links in the show notes. Zach Hall, a recent guest we had on MPU within the last 6 months, lost 50 pounds. He just decided he didn't like the way he looked in his Christmas card. So he got serious about using these tools and dropped a bunch of weight. And I've heard from many listeners. Whenever I do posts about my activity ranges, I always hear from somebody who talks about some life-changing effects this has had for them. So hopefully this stuff can help you out. Maybe we've shared a few apps or ideas with you today that can help you get a little more fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a side of this that we haven't really talked about is the sort of digital wellness. Like, okay, I'm exercising, eating well, but I'm spending a lot of time on screens, or I want to downplay that. Or again, I want to understand, to quantify how much time I'm using my devices. That was covered on MPU 423, and I think we will come back to that at some point because the tools are a lot better than they've been in the past.
Yeah, that we're aware of that. We will get there.
Yes, it's on the list.
Well, I think that about does it, at least for today on health and fitness. We miss anything, Steven? We good?
It's such a broad field. I'm sure we missed ton of stuff, but I like talking about how it impacts us. And I think this is a good reflection of what we've used over the years.
And I know there's a lot of doctors that listen to the show, and most of them are banging their heads against their dashboard right now about something I've said or you said.
Yeah.
And let us know. We're trying to get it right here. But anyway, we're the Mac Power Users. You can find this show over at relay.fm/MPU/467. We got a bunch of great show notes here, including a K-Base article. And, check it out. You can also find us over on the Mac Power Users forums at talk.macpowerusers.com. Stephen, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter as ISMH, and a bunch of shows here on Relay, of course. And then I write 512pixels.net.
And you can find me over at MacSparky.com. Thanks to our sponsors today, our friends over at 1Password, Omni Group, Luna Display, and Squarespace. And we will see you all next week.